The goal of this video is to help you see that there is a way to concentrate specifically in order to use your imagination to your own advantage. Because what happens, generally speaking, for all of us is that we're confronted by the fact that our minds are controlled by the senses and not by imagination, even though we know the power of imagination. Yet every day we go through life, constantly through the senses, all kinds of ideas are impressed upon our consciousness. And these ideas that come in through the consciousness, through the senses, are not always really that conducive to us actually realizing anything. So for example, one could have a goal of awakening spiritually, and therefore the senses are constantly telling him or her that, is this really possible? Like, where's the evidence that this is possible? They look at their friends and family, they may have never done it themselves, so they're like confused and at a loss for words as well about what this is all about. But yet there is this power in man that's been told us throughout the ages. There is this power in us that can help set us free. And one of those very specific powers in us is of course called imagination. Now if you look at the picture on the screen, we're going to go keep this very simple, and therefore hopefully you'll understand more effectively how to go about it. See, as it says in the top left corner, the power to improve your life comes from within. Well, that is just the truth. Don't look without yourself, on the physical plane, for your power to actually achieve something, because it's not there, it's within you. And this power is called imagination, which is a spiritual power. This is very important to understand. If you don't look at it from this angle, you'll walk the risk of just assuming, well, it's just my imagination, it's just this power apparently that I have in my mind, and you don't really take it that far. But if you understand it's actually a spiritual power, it also really is useful during the journey of spiritual awakening in general, to understand that, hey, I'm meant to look more at the spiritual, what it is all about. And then one of the powers that comes to you is imagination. And on the bottom I asked a question: which of the above is mostly influencing your imaginative power? And we have two options here. You got sense perception, or you have visions of fulfilled desires. Now what are they actually about? Because here is where the biggest obstacle comes into view for people if they don't pay clear attention to their own consciousness. Because you, as a student, probably already know that you should use your imagination for what? You already know the answer. If you have been studying this, you know. You know that we would say you have to focus on visions of fulfilled desire. But here's the thing. If you've been having issues and struggling actually improving something in your life, odds are it's because you're allowing sense perception to subtly, very sneaky, come in and mess with your imagination. So how does that work? Because visions of fulfilled desire is pretty clear cut. It's just seeing within your consciousness, within your mind's eye, within the spiritual third eye, to see there what you would like, how you would like your reality to be, what you would like to achieve. You see it within yourself. It's pretty straightforward. But what is this sense perception all about? Well, what happens very subtly, more often than not for most people, is that even though they have this vision of fulfilled desires, when they then go throughout their days, because of what their senses are telling them, they're feeding that to their imagination as well. And then what happens is that through imagination, you start to imagine things going wrong. Things maybe not working out. Things maybe not working the way you would want them to work. And this is so subtle, and it happens so rapidly that people might miss it, and therefore they remain stuck. But there's one clear sign that you know that this is occurring. It's based on how you start feeling. How you actually feel within your own very being. Because if you focus on visions of fulfilled desires, if you calm your mind and focus on that, you will sense yourself being lifted up into a better spot. Inwardly, you feel yourself being lifted up to a better, vibration. That's literally what we're talking about. But you feel yourself being lifted out of a rut, more or less. But once it's about sense perception, you start to feel dismayed, discouraged, demoralized, doubts, worries, all these nasty negative things start to sort of crawl around within you. And it's because you are allowing the senses to control your imagination. And again, it's so subtle, but we have to grasp that it's happening. You can, if you want, just symbolically consider it as if there's all these serpents stinging you from all over the place with things that you should not be paying attention to. I'm saying this as a symbolic way, and I hope someone that's spiritually aware kind of gets something out of that one. Because to me, it's always useful to look at it like that. All this negative stuff, these doubts, worries, demoralization, etc., I don't have any need for it, and neither do you. So you have to stop doing it, allowing it to infect you. You stop allowing the senses to infect you in a negative way. And you do that by becoming very focused. And this concentration, this form of focus, can only occur if you have a calm state of mind. So throughout your days in general, you want to take the time to actually close your eyes, relax yourself, and focus on where you want to take your life, physically speaking, so that that pattern of energy keeps flowing with and through you, instead of the pattern of energy suggested by the senses. So somebody wants to be rich. They see themselves having a successful business in their imagination. They have a clear idea of what kind of business it would be. They can see it all in their imagination. They are full of hope and excitement and joy and passion. They really want to make this a reality. And then they start going through their days, and constantly the senses are showing them completely different things. Like, they seem to suggest that these things are not possible for them. There's reasons to be found why it is probably not possible. This all comes in through the senses, then rapidly it starts to influence the imagination, and before you know it, you start to actually imagine things going wrong for you. And this is what you want to be careful of. You have to understand all these things are because of a particular thing that you are allowing to occur, which is sense perception controlling your imagination. If you understand this, then you can still set any goal, whatever it is, and simply work upon it. Simply go towards it. Simply work towards it without having to worry about anything. That's the beauty of it all. But every time you feel these doubts and worries, know that that is a state of mind that you can overcome. Don't succumb to it. That's the thing. Most people succumb to those doubts and worries and give up on their dreams. But I don't want you to give up on them. I want you to succeed, because that is part of your destiny, to succeed on earth, on whatever it is that you're meant to express. And in order to do so, you're going to have to let your imagination control your reality, to control your own inner beingness. Once that occurs, then you'll develop the power to actually achieve whatever you desire, both physically or non-physically. See, ultimately the spiritual world is greater than the physical world, but maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you still want physical things first and foremost. Well, this is one way of going about getting physical things for yourself. You have to use your mind in such a way that through it, like an antenna, it keeps sending out these desires towards God, towards the cosmic soul of the universe. Because once sense perception comes in and doubts arise, then like an antenna, you're sort of sending out signals of doubt to the universe, and therefore things become more difficult for you. You're not attracting the right ideas as effectively in order for you to succeed. But as long as you're full of faith and confidence and trust and full of the feeling of your wish fulfilled, again, as Neville would say, then you're transmitting that like an antenna through consciousness straightly towards the consciousness of God itself, and he responds, this cosmic soul responds by giving you inspiration, ideas and hunches on what to do. You can clearly measure this in your own life. When you're full of doubts and worries because of what the senses are telling you, and you're feeding that into your imagination, you start attracting more and more reasons on why you probably can't succeed. But if you start feeding your imagination with visions of fulfilled desires, you start attracting more and more ideas on how you could potentially succeed. That's very fascinating, isn't it? But you have to become consciously aware of this, and then also make a decision to keep working with this consciously, because before you know it, your senses are going to take over and going to cause you to focus on all the things that you shouldn't be focusing upon, and feeding your imagination poison instead of something sweet and powerful, which is the desires of your true heart, which is what it's all about. You expressing what you were meant to do. You know, your desires, the things that you want to achieve on earth, even though that they're going to be temporary, they are still, if they're true desires coming from the heart, inspired by God, just to give you something to do while you're here physically speaking. That's how you should look at it. At least that's how I'm looking at it. So I would suggest you look at it as well, because ultimately you're going to leave this physical plane behind. But if you've been spending it doing stuff that you were passionate about, at least the journey had some meaning. But if you haven't been able to do that, well, for so many people the journey therefore becomes very hard and disturbing and almost disheartening, and then they pass away almost happy that it's finally over, but they're gonna come back if they don't watch out. You see, even if you are disgusted by this physical world, you are still attached to it. If you still want to achieve things in this world, you're attached obviously to the world, but it's better than to be attached to this world while achieving your greatest dreams than to be attached in such a way that it's because you're afraid of death, etc., because it's inevitable. So don't be afraid of it, of course, but first, for now, learn how to use your imagination and really analyze for yourself. How much of the days of my life is sense perception influencing my imagination, and how much am I letting visions of fulfilled desire influence my imagination? Because there's a clear distinction there, and once you can see it for yourself, you'll develop even greater powers for achievement, and that's what I really want for you to discover as well. Now, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.